Hello and welcome to the Album of the Year podcast. My name is Chris, and with me as always to my right is my man Marty. How you doing today, Marty?
I'm doing very well. Doing great. It's a nice Tuesday evening here in good old Leander, Texas. And we're just
a beautiful place and having a good time.
That's right.
Belly full of hot wings.
That's right, man.
Yeah, prepping for the next episode, actually. Already.
Yeah, we're doing some research tonight for our next Album of the Year yearly format episode. But before we did, we wanted to just give you guys something in the neighborhood of a new Lunchtime episode. And
that's right. So it's our first Lunchtime episode of the new season.
Yeah, it is.
And I think it's a pretty good one.
I agree.
Our theme for this episode is nostalgia.
Yes.
And we talk about it a little bit here in just a second when we get started. But I enjoyed this one.
So
like I said, it was a little bit all over the place, but I kind of like that about it.
So
I think it fits the theme pretty well. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I was kind of concerned when you brought up nostalgia as a talking point for a Lunchtime episode, just because I didn't know where to start. I felt like it was a very cumbersome subject when you do within the context of music, but all in all, I thought it flowed really well. I actually liked it. I don't know if I thought it was as all over the place as you did, but I really enjoyed it personally.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. So you know what? You be the judge. I think there's not a whole lot of setup we got to do here.
No.
So why don't we roll on with Lunchtime number 4?
Lunchtime episode number 4. The first Lunchtime episode of the new season, as Chris said, nostalgia.
Take it away, Chris and Marty.
All right. Enjoy, guys. We are off.
We're off.
Off on? How do you do that?
We're on, man.
We're on.
You always got to be on. Right?
Always, yeah, exactly.
That's like the comedians rule. Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
I got these zany voices.
Yeah, hey, it's new for season 2. Wacky radio voices.
Wacky radio voices from the 1960s. Yeah, it's like we're like Wolfman Jack.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
Hey, all you doggies out there.
I love that guy's voice, man.
Yeah.
And that's appropriate because the topic today is actually lunchtime. Obviously, you can tell by the pro audio.
We always have to talk about the pro audio on these episodes.
We've got to, man. So we're going to be talking about, we're doing a lunchtime today. So we're going to lunch. We're going to go to Demasi's, the Mediterranean buffet.
Very good.
So that's going to be interesting. So you're not going to have to listen to us order. We're just going to walk right in. It's
shoveling falafel. It's kind of great because you can literally walk in and start, like you can just walk in, grab a plate and just start loading and just get after it.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
So that's going to be great. So
agreed.
But the topic today is to me, I picked this topic, right?
Yeah, this was Chris's idea.
So it's going to be, but it still feels super nebulous to me, but I think in a good way.
It is, yeah.
In a good way.
Agreed.
So today's topic is nostalgia.
Yeah.
And primarily, if it's a music podcast, so we're going to be talking about nostalgia as it relates to music but probably in other contexts a little bit, but primarily how it relates to music. And so I got a lot of thoughts on it, but they're swishing around in my head. What do you think, Marty? When I mentioned it, did you have any thoughts about it? Or?
A little bit. I kind of concurred with you on it being incredibly nebulous and maybe kind of hard to broach, but I think that my mind kind of shifted a little bit, and I started thinking about it a lot more because last night I saw an ad for the new. This is not necessarily music related, so I apologize,
but it's still related.
The ad for the new Captain Marvel movie, and movies, especially superhero movies, are one of the things that are working in the nostalgia wheelhouse 100% nowadays. It's pretty obvious those movies are marketed to like our generation, because
we grew up reading the comic books.
Exactly, the Captain Marvel character. Basically, it starts off with a ESPN Sports Center episode from 1995 with 2 anchors that were there in the 1995. And I actually didn't hear the ad because I was on the elliptical at the gym watching it with no sound and listening to my headphones. And then basically like it pans to that from the Captain Marvel character walking into a Blockbuster video.
Right.
It's like, oh my God.
And I think Connection by Elastica
is it? Of course.
Yeah. 1995 like a boss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So if you're my age, it's like, hello, high school.
Me too.
It's super exciting. So, and it's interesting that, the first thing you hear, if I recall correctly, or it's one of the first things you hear, is that riff from Connection. So you can see that music in particular, I think, is tied into, like, it's just almost hardwired into people's nostalgia.
Yeah.
I think even more than, sure, things signifiers like Blockbuster or whatever, it could be something people are nostalgic about. Definitely, time and place, you know, like, is a huge thing. But music, for some reason, for a lot of people, is the thing that brings, you know, memories flooding back.
Yeah, for sure. So. I agree. And then I was reading a lot of stuff online last night about kind of the neurological, I guess, benefits and exploits of nostalgia and how your brain kind of is programmed to, I guess, feel really good when you hear a song you heard when you were 17. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. I mean, that's a really simple way of putting it, but
there's actually, like, neurological, like, psychological processes. Like, you know, you get that warm rush of
exactly, and it actually releases dopamine in your brain, and it makes it, like, washes over you and makes you feel that feeling again, kind of. So it's, I mean, there's, like, even, like, a chemical attribute that you can trace back to nostalgia, which is really crazy.
Well, like, the history of nostalgia. So I knew this, and I read an Atlantic article, and you can go looking for it. Look up nostalgia. The Atlantic kind of talks about it. Even the Wikipedia article talks about it a little bit. But nostalgia was originally, the word was coined in, like, the 17th century. Yeah. And it was considered like a insofar as it had psychology, but like a disorder back then.
That's so crazy.
It was observed particularly in soldiers who, imagine this, soldiers who didn't want to kill people and were sort of thinking a lot about happy times when they were younger. Yeah. And so it was like, oh, what's wrong with these people? They think a lot about their happy youth and their innocence and all this, and it was seen as like a disorder for hundreds of years, you know, even up to like the Civil War times. And stuff. It really isn't until more recently in the modern world we think of nostalgia as almost something with positive benefits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although I think that's debatable. So one of the things I want to say up front is that this is not like a glorifying nostalgia podcast today. Like, I definitely think nostalgia is something that I think is good in certain doses, but that I'm also very critical of, particularly as it relates to music.
Yeah, agree 100%.
So one thing that I want to bring up, maybe just as a place to kick this off, is I remember when I was a kid. Okay, nostalgia, right? But no, I remember when I was a kid, one of the we listened to oldies radio a lot.
So did we.
And if you think about it, if you do the math, and maybe if we have any of our listeners who are in their teens and 20s, it could happen. Yeah. Maybe there's someone out there who wants to listen to us who's, not yet old enough to drink.
19 or 20.
Sure. Yeah, but so this may sound strange to you, but 20 years, to me, doesn't seem like it's that long. But I remember watching, if you think about oldies, like, those songs were only like 20 years old at that point. So if you do the math, that would be like 1999. Now, could you imagine, like, 1999, we were talking about Wilco, Summer Teeth. Yeah. Oldies. Were we going to call that an oldie? Would you?
No, I mean, not
in
really.
99?
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up because I remember when I was, I want to say I was maybe 6 or 7, so this would have been 1985, 1986. I remember my dad was talking about something, and he referred to the 60s as being 20 years ago. And at that point, the 60s were 20 years ago, and it's crazy. And all the music from that generation, the 50s, the 60s, is branded as oldies, and
but
everything.
It's really only 20 years.
Old, exactly, and everything. Yeah, so Summer Teeth, no, like
I wouldn't think of that as an oldie. You know, but here's what I wanted to get at. So 1982. So if you think about 20 years from 1982 is 1962. Sure. Still in the rock and roll era. It's sort of at the waning days, but you could say 20 to 25 years is probably the era of oldies. But 1982, Dick Clark releases he starts a radio program called Rock, Roll, and Remember.
Really?
Right. This was a huge radio program on oldies radio. Okay. And I wanted to just bring that up at the start because it was rock, and I'm not criticizing Dick Clark. I'm just using this as an idea to see how quickly nostalgia was tied into the rock era, right? Because the remember part of it it's like this is suddenly it almost says in the title like a mission statement. It's a nostalgia podcast at that point. Like, you're not listening to this music because it's still a current event for you. You're listening to it because it's a part of remembering when you were in high school.
Was that the beginning of nostalgia in music, do you think? Was that the flashpoint?
If you look in the 70s, there's a huge bit of nostalgia for the 50s. And I think usually American Graffiti is held up as the thing, you know? But also if you look like Sha Na Na and all that.
Yeah.
And even the way, you know, I've been a long time, we talked about it, been a long time since
I rock and rolled.
But like that is in some ways a throwback to the 50s as well.
Really?
You know? Well,
okay.
I mean, if you look at...
Yeah. Oh, so it might be kind of loud, guys. We are buzzing right on 183 Access Road here in North Austin. This part might get cut out. I don't know. Maybe not.
No, this is exciting.
Cinema
right?
Verite, right?
Exactly. It's, me and Marty are dodging cars right now. Like you may remember 80s arcade games Frogger. There's some nostalgia for it.
Yeah, that's definitely, most certainly.
All right, we're going in.
Thank you, sir. Chris just opened up the door. Hello. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. All right. What do you think? Let's do it up.
Yeah.
All right, man. So you get my salad first. Ooh. Was happy that they have the chickpea salad again.
We got here kind of early.
We did, yeah. Everything's fresh. Yeah, it's great. That's fine, yeah. So,
I just, as a nostalgia thing, I'm sitting down here. I just, as an example of how nostalgia can kind of be affected by anything, I just got a big tall glass of Mr. Pibb.
Yeah.
Most people would not do that, but it is something that I remember drinking when I was a kid, and so every now and then when I get it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's like just a flashback to the.
It's
80s.
Interesting that you don't do you do Mr. Pibb in favor of Dr. Pepper because.
Well, no, I mean I'll drink Dr. Pepper too. My point is that it's Mr. Pibb that it's kind of tied to nostalgia.
Yeah.
Dr. Pepper, I just have a Dr. Pepper still, just like I would something else. You know?
That's fair. So I wanted to bring this up about Dick Clark because it fits with our conversation. And back in the probably late 90s or early 2000s, this restaurant opened up in the Kenwood, Montgomery area, which is kind of a more upscale part of Cincy. This restaurant called Dick Clark's American Bandstand Grill opened up.
Oh, really?
And it was like a TGI Fridays with like all this American Bandstand memorabilia on the walls and stuff.
Interesting.
It was so
awesome.
It was awesome, but it lasted like 5 years. I want to say it went from 99 to 2004. They built a new building just for the restaurant. It closed and they tore it down.
Oh, wow.
It was so weird. It literally was like 1 minute it was up, it was doing good business, and then something happened, and then it was just non-existent. So it was kind of interesting.
It probably shows you the perils of building something on nostalgia in the first place. Because who's the audience for that? I mean, even our age group, you know, doesn't have like any kind of. I mean, American Bandstand existed when we were kids, but it was. You know, it was nothing shadow of its former
culturally significant.
Yeah, it really isn't. And apart from the fact that American Bandstand is tied into the American Music Awards, there's really no cultural, you know, and I guess the expression, you know, it got a good beat and I can dance to it. There's not really any sort of cultural cachet left from that or cultural mark.
And I think that's what happened. I think whatever cultural stock you had, it just all drifted away with the restaurant. Like it was the last bastion of you know, Dick Clark.
I mean, I like Dick Clark, right? You know, and I liked listening to his show when I was a kid and all that stuff. You know, he's the thing about Dick Clark. I mean, he's kind of like the Carson Daly of the 60s.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, he was square, you know, like he really wasn't that cool. I remember him once talking about how the Beatles like came on American Bandstand, or they played a Beatles song on American Bandstand before they blew up, and the audience didn't like it. They scored it like a 73 or something, or they and he was all like kind of suspicious of the British invasion and all that stuff.
Really?
Like, he wasn't, because he was really from that earlier era, the sort of Teen Idol era and stuff. And, you know, the Beatles beats, the Mercy beat and all of that wasn't really danceable in the way most of the American Bandstand stuff had been danceable. Yeah. His favorite rock and roll song was You've Lost That Love and Feeling by the Righteous Brothers, which is a great song, but it's like it's not emblematic of the rock era in any way. Like you would think, you know, it would be something, you know, it would be Little Richard or something, but instead, no, it was more big-hearted, weepy number, you know, that sounds like it was written by Tin Pan Alley cats or something, or Brill Building guys. So,
do you think that it's kind of a travesty? So you have the Righteous Brothers, and you have You've Lost That Love and Feeling and Unchained Melody, right?
Right.
So I feel like the only reason people know about those songs now is because of Top Gun and Ghost.
Oh.
Those two movies. Like, because they sing it in the locker room during Top Gun after, and Ghost is the whole Patrick Swayze scene. It's just like,
I think it's possible. I mean, it is kind of a tragedy, but the times change, I guess, and that's part of what's difficult with nostalgia too, or is that it tends to drive you backwards. I mean, I think too much nostalgia is. I mean, we do a podcast where we talk about album of the year for
whatever year,
right?
Yeah.
Like someone could get the wrong idea about our podcast and say it's some kind of nostalgia podcast.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
I don't think it is in any way, but. Well, we do spend a lot of time looking back. Obviously, that's kind of the nature of it.
And some people's definition of nostalgia may be talking about old music, which is fine. I don't think that's necessarily nostalgic.
I don't either.
I think it's just, music history. When I post stuff on Instagram, I hashtag music history podcast. I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of
examining history and an interest in history is not the same as nostalgia.
Exactly.
But sometimes they correlate.
Yeah, sometimes.
And I think that's okay to a certain degree.
Right. I agree.
But despite the fact that I wear flannel shirts every day, I don't sit around listening to my old Nirvana records and wishing it was 1993.
Exactly.
But sometimes I'm nostalgic for things from there. But I think that there's a danger, and I do feel like our generation kind of has an acute awareness of this more. I mean, you still know a lot of people who music was never as good as it was in the 90s or whatever.
Right.
But you don't hear that as much. When I was a kid, that was my parents' whole attitude.
Everybody's parents,
it was just music.
And their parents too.
Yeah.
Their parents reacted.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you say it. Go for it.
Their parents reacted to Elvis and the Beatles the same way that our parents reacted to Nirvana, grunge, and hip hop. Just noise. What is this? Incoherent blabber.
In the same way we react to SoundCloud rap.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's all it's all generational, I suppose. But whoops, sorry. I don't know, man. That makes sense though. Did I make a cogent point?
You did. You make a cogent point. No, I think that it's slightly different. I do think that our generation understands nobody wants to be a sad old man who only listens to his old records. You know
exactly.
What I mean? Having said that, I do think there are people, and this goes beyond music to a degree, but the BuzzFeed list, only 90s kids will get these references or whatever, or only 80s kids, or you were raised in the 1450s if you recognize these torture devices. Oh, nostalgia.
I was going to make a cut like that, but it wasn't nearly as good. I was going to say only Wes Anderson movie fans will be able to pick out this Velvet Underground song. But yeah, dude, it's kind of... The internet and social media kind of made nostalgia something really disposable, I think, with those listicle articles and the whole which member of the German krautrock prog wave are you? Kind of thing.
That is hilarious. Yeah.
Oh, I'm clearly
You're
Neu.
Klaus.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm clearly the guitarist from Neu.
Yeah.
How do you say that band name?
Neu? Yeah, Neu.
Yeah.
That's it took a while to figure that out. We have to make up for mispronouncing Einsterzender
Neubauten.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think that I was making a joke, but I was trying to illustrate a point of how specific some of those who are you things were.
Yeah. Partly I think that the internet has done an interesting thing to nostalgia because things don't disappear like they used to.
That's true.
So nostalgia doesn't exist in quite the same way. It still exists.
If it's on the internet, it has some kind of life, whether whether there's 5 people or 1 billion people looking at it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and you can feel a sense of nostalgia, but you can get it so fast, you know.
Yeah.
Like an example, and this is going to seem like really out of left field. I hadn't intended to talk about it, but like me and my daughter spent some time, like 2 weeks ago, looking up videos of the Rock-afire explosion, the Showbiz pizza robots, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So these were like the Chuck E. Cheese, Five Nights at Freddy's kind of things from the 80s. And they were probably the best one from a, like, there's a pizza parlor that had these robots that played rock songs. And I was pleasantly surprised to find out that, like, a lot of the music, well, you wouldn't play it on the radio, but a lot of them have pretty cool arrangements.
Yeah.
Like, they've got a medley of Satisfaction. Where they mix Satisfaction, Born to Be Wild, and For Your Love by the Yardbirds. And when they get to the For Your Love section, then they mix all 3 of them together, you know. It's almost beautiful, you know. And I was
really
like, wow, that's amazing. I'm watching, like, you know, a robotic rat sing a Yardbird song, which, if you think about it, is a nostalgic play to the parents of the kids in the 80s. You know what I mean? Like, so they're not doing, like, Michael Jackson songs there.
Right.
They're doing songs that their parents would have brought them back.
Right.
But my point of bringing that up is like is twofold. One, it's like it's an exercise in nostalgia for me to see it, because I remember going to those pizza places when I was a kid.
Right.
But also, it just proves that you can get access to anything you want. Like, if that exists on the internet, anything does.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But because anything exists on the internet, like, the drive for nostalgia is kind of lessened.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, oh, you know, just look it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
No
cool.
big deal.
No big deal. It's not
like we're desensitized to the fact that, you know, things existed before 2005 kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that we have access to it if we want. So we don't just have to live, you know. I don't know. We don't have to live back there because we have other options.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to go grab some more food. I'll be right back.
You got it, man.
All right.
Yeah, looking good.
Yeah.
So what do you think about just let's kind of use nostalgia let's use this as a platform for a second.
Okay.
There are guys who, you know, they listen to the radio, they listen to the station that plays the music that they listened to when they were, you know, teenagers. Right. And there's a temptation to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's easy, right?
Yeah.
Do you think some people, nostalgia is, like, music for them is just kind of fundamentally tied to a time and place?
Absolutely.
Like, yeah. And what do you think about that as a phenomenon, a cultural phenomenon?
I think that has to do with the fact that a lot of people see it as entertainment, and I don't want to say those people see it as disposable, but I think it goes back to the neurological debate, and some people are never gonna, like, they're never gonna find something like the first time they heard a Bad Company album or something. Like, they're never gonna find something as good as when they heard Led Zeppelin 2 for the first time. And I mean, you can see that in how people consume content, even in the internet age. Sirius XM radio, 70s on 7, 80s on 8, classic vinyl. Like, just look at the channels that you can program into your Sirius XM radio, and it basically exemplifies what you just said.
Yeah.
You know,
like, you don't have to leave the 80s if you don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can listen to Wang Chung, you know, every hour on the hour if you want. They even
can? Wow. Dance hall days, baby.
I'm telling you, man. They even have specific period genre stations. Like, there's like a new wave punk 80s station on Sirius XM that plays nothing but, like, the Smiths and Susie and the Banshees and stuff, and even like Falco. Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
First Wave. It's called First Wave. Yeah, it was great.
But it's very much, again, tied to a specific place.
It is.
But I bring that up because I have a story, and I kind of mentioned this to you the other day, but I want to bring it up again. So, you know, when I was at South Plains College, I had a songwriting class.
Yeah.
So it was a music school. We were learning, you know, rock, pop music, and there was a big contingent of the people who were there for country music, right? And that's, you know, no big deal.
Makes
country
sense. It's Texas,
but we have a songwriter class, and on day one, I remember the instructor coming and saying, hey, so what's the purpose of songwriting? Like, what's the goal of songwriting?
What are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, what is it for? What are songs for? Basically, we're trying to have this huge, like, philosophical debate. And one of the guys, and he's one of the better songwriters there, I got to say. He was a country songwriter.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably an attitude, probably more embraced in country music, but I don't think it's unique to country music. But, he said something I found very interesting. He said, music and songs help remind you of a place, like maybe where you were happier, or something, like where life was easier, or it was like everything that he said was basically that music's role is to remind you of something that doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Or essentially, he was saying there's a nostalgia.
It's escapism.
It's escapism, but it's escape into the past. It's not just like it's not just fantasy or whatever, right?
Okay.
He wasn't saying there need to be more songs about prison colonies on Mars. He was saying like, you need to go back to. I mean, I think he even used the phrase like it takes you back. It takes you back somewhere.
For the record, we can talk about penal colonies on Mars for the rest of the pod. We can bring that up every episode.
Every episode, we're gonna. He's taking us to Red Sector A. No, but I mean, he felt very strongly that was a huge part of music. The goal of music, the overall goal of music. And he wasn't alone. Like, a lot of people agreed with him. I would say probably half the class was like, yeah, that's a great answer.
That makes sense, yeah.
And whereas I was shocked by it, not offended by it, but just like shocked that would be, because to me, music is about communicating ideas, musical ideas, but also artistic ideas. Like, I would never for a second think that, music is tied to like some sort of nostalgic urge.
Yeah. Well, I think in his defense as a country artist, I feel like that answer makes the most sense in that context, maybe. You know what I'm saying?
Well, right. But I think even country artists have... It's
still very surface level, that answer is not very deep. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that...
I'm not trying to insult him.
Neither am I. I'm not saying that, like, that wasn't a well-crafted answer to that question, because it was. It certainly required some thought.
Yeah.
And it certainly wasn't bullshit. I believe it was a sincere answer, but I don't know.
But I guess what I was trying to get at is that I think he sort of, in his answer, was an attitude about music that a lot of people share.
Yeah,
you hear people say music is the soundtrack to our lives, right? And which I always hate that expression, because to me it's like, okay, so you can only relate to music through the metaphor of movies? Get out of here. Get out of here. But I think for a lot of people, like, it really is. It is the background music to other events that are happening in their lives. And I find that very, it's acceptable. Like, I think people can engage with music however they want. Like, I'm not trying to be a little dictator and tell people, well, that's, morally
it's wrong. Yeah.
But from a personal standpoint, like, I just can't relate to it at all.
Yeah.
Because even when I go back and I listen to, my old girl group music or whatever I'm listening to, it's not because necessarily most of the time I want to go back somewhere. It's because I'm relating to it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like if you are somebody who engages with music on the sort of ridiculous, we have a 3-hour podcast level that you and I engage on, I don't think it can be driven by nostalgia.
Exactly. I agree. So I think what you're trying to communicate is that I mean, nostalgia is kind of a base level appreciation of something, in a way. Does that make sense?
A base level appreciation?
Yeah. Like, people that...
Oh, a very basic appreciation.
Yeah, people that see that Captain Marvel trailer and they see the Blockbuster video and hear the Elastica song, like, that's enough to trigger memories or whatever, but they're not going to sit down like you and me and have... a 2-hour conversation about that Elastica record or about, the failure of Blockbuster Video or, whatever.
Well, I feel like they're engaging with it on an emotional and memory-based level.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I don't want this to sound like, like hell is listening to two people talk about what other people think, like I don't want to be like that, but or criticizing what other people think, right? But, But I do think there's a difference between what we try to do on this podcast and maybe the nostalgic urge that kind of thing is going for.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. Yeah, I agree.
And I think ultimately I come down to the side of being a little critical of that, at least in large dosage. You know, if you think that the goal of music is to remind you of being a kid or something, or remind you of being a teenager, then I think you're missing out on the beauty of music, you know, because it can be so much more.
Yeah, right.
But the flip side of that is that I don't think a little bit of nostalgia is bad, you know?
No,
like when I hear Connection, there is a part of me that's like, cool. Right. I remember I bought that record. I literally bought that record 5 times.
Really?
People kept stealing it from me. No joke. It's the most I've ever bought any single record was that Elastica record. And
that happened to me with Bone Thugs and Harmony, East 1999 Eternal.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Well, because
maybe all your copies of that album are just trying to meet you at the crossroads.
Well, hopefully one day they will. Easy, and all of them will be there. And I'm going to 7 out of No, but the story like that goes kind of like the first pressing of that CD had the first version of the Crossroads on it, but they remixed it. And the second version became so popular that they reissued that record, the CD, with the new version of the Crossroads on it.
Oh.
And so my first version I would have been just fine with, but it something happened to it where it got a dent in the disc and it could no longer play. So it was the perfect opportunity for me to rebuy it
and get
that other version. And then that one I left at a party somewhere. And then that one, I replaced it again, and then I don't know what happened. I think I got it like 3 times. And the third one, I have no idea what happened to. But I know that they're reissuing that album for Record Store Day.
Oh, wow.
And I'm probably gonna get it on. I gotta, man. Like, I don't know.
Hey, I want to get that Elastica album on vinyl at some point. So I have at least one more purchase of that album. So the way I ended up buying that album 5 times was like, the first time, me and my buddy Weston, like neither of us had enough money to buy the album, but together we pooled our money to have it, right?
It was like Radioactive Man #1.
Yeah, it was. I was the Millhouse in that game.
That's so good.
Yeah. Man. So what happened is, so I bought that, and then he and I shared it. Like I think I made a tape copy of it, and then he moved away shortly after that. And he took it with him, right?
Yeah.
So, which is fine.
Yeah.
So that was my first time to purchase it. The second time I bought it, and that version was stolen by a friend of mine.
Oh.
Yeah.
No longer your friend.
Yeah, no longer.
That.
I never saw him again after that. Maybe he's just borrowing and he intends to bring it back.
He was just in it for the Elastica CD.
Yeah. And then I gave a copy of it I gave my next copy of it to somebody because they liked it, and then I bought another copy of it, and my older sister confused it for her copy and got very, very mad at me one day, and it was one of those things where I gave it to her even though it really wasn't her copy. It was just like, get this over with. And then Steph had a copy of it, and when we got married, that became my copy. So I think that's all 5 of them accounted for.
Wow, man.
So it's just hilarious.
What a story.
Yeah.
The Sisterhood of the Traveling Elastica CD.
Man. Great album, though.
Yeah. I don't actually know that album very well.
Yeah, I mean, it famously got sued by Wire and stuff because they have a couple of songs that sound like Wire tracks and stuff.
You told me that.
Yeah.
Because you were like, they were trying to copy Wire big time.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's really just great sort of straightforward rockin'.
After you said that, I listened to Connection, and I was like, that is definitely a Wire song.
Yeah, they got a song called Lineup. Lineup that sounds like I'm the Fly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, let me ask you this. At some point, can you discern between music that you still like and listen to that's old and music that you like only because it's nostalgic?
Yes.
Like, this is my example. One of those articles about the neurological kind of exploits of, listening to old music, they had a playlist that coincided with it, And on the playlist, they had, kind of like My Chemical Romance, like a bunch of pop punk and emo, but they also had like Block Party and like stuff like that. And I don't know if I'm nostalgic for Block Party Silent Alarm. I listened to that album a ton when it came out, but I've revisited it not because it reminds me of a certain time, but because I really dig, that's a great album, I really dig that record, right?
Right.
So what do you think?
I think it just depends on how you're engaging with it, and I mean, and I'm not like a neuroscientist, so maybe they could dispute this, but I think if I listen to here's a song that I have a lot of nostalgia for, the song Abracadabra by Steve Miller Band, right? So this is not like, I don't even know if it is a great song, and maybe it is or maybe it's not. I have no way to judge because I have a memory of being 5 years old and that being played on the radio, and me singing it to my little sister who was 3, and like trying to grab her while I was singing it.
God!
And then she was like crying.
Grab you.
Yeah,
that was so weird.
But because of that, and then I never heard that song again for like years, and so it was just kind of encased in ice. You know what I mean? Like in my mind to just remind me of that moment when I was a little kid. And whenever I hear the song, I don't really engage with it as a piece of music. I engage with it as a memory.
Yeah.
And so when I hear it, I'm not thinking about, oh, that's really great, this synth part, or oh, isn't it clever how he uses the phrase "reach out and grab you"? What a great poetic turn of Shakespeare. I'm not thinking like that. I'm just thinking like, oh yeah, I remember being a kid and hearing this, and oh, this takes me back. And I think that it's okay to have a few songs like that. I feel the same way we were talking about Red Wine and how much I like the toasting in it. I don't for a second engage with that on the same way that I'm listening to a White Stripes album today. I'm engaging with the memory of being a third grader and listening to this.
And your dad saying this is stupid.
Yeah, exactly. right. And so, I can tell the difference of how I listen to the music.
Right, for sure.
But I think there's old music that I engage with the same way that I always did. Yeah. And there may be some nostalgic memories tied to that, or it may be possible to listen to the same song both ways.
Right.
But I can tell the difference. I feel like it. Like even something like Nirvana. I was thinking about Nirvana meant so much to me as a teenager, but I don't really listen to it that much. And the other day, because I carpool with the guy, that we were listening to Nevermind, and he was kind of complaining about it, which is kind of funny. But he didn't know that album, so I was playing it for him. And I realized I don't really listen to Lounge Act, and I don't really listen to it that much now. But it's still not at a place, because I don't relate to it the same way I did when I was a teenager, because thank God to say I've moved on quite a bit, I don't feel teen angst now that I'm 40, but I still like it.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like it's in the middle somewhere, It's like it is sort of tied to a time and place. I loved it at one time. I still like it now.
I have a lot of stuff like that. It's like I'm not going to pick it up and listen to it every day, but even Jawbreaker, we were talking about Jawbreaker and Jets to Brazil and that kind of stuff, I'm not revisiting that stuff every day. Maybe every few months, maybe every year, but that doesn't diminish my love for it.
When I pop it on, I'm not going, it takes me back.
Exactly.
I'm still engaging with it, where I am as a work of art on its own.
Right.
Mostly. I mean, there's songs, like I say, that do double duty, one that's really nostalgic for me is a song called Love is Strange. Do you know that song? No. It's from the 50s by Mickey and Sylvia. If you saw Dirty Dancing, it's the song that has that bit at the end, which is like, how do you call your lover boy? Come here, lover boy.
That's the song that's playing?
Yeah. I love that song, man. But it's tied to specific memory when I was in third grade, and I don't break that out because who cares? But the guitar part in it, the guy who was the guitar player was Mickey. I forget. I'm trying to. I think it may just be Mickey Guitar Smith, something like that. Yeah. I may have gotten his last name wrong. Yeah, Mickey and Sylvia. Sylvia went on to form Sugar Hill Records.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So literally, the chick singing that is the one who put together the Sugar Hill Gang.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so very interesting story. But the guitar work in that is kind of cool. It's got a cool little hook. Okay. It has some use of a sample in a way, because if you listen to it closely, you can tell that they do this kind of melodic part, and you can tell that they're not singing that live. It's recorded and they're singing over it. So it's almost like a sampled hook or something.
That's wild, man.
Anyway, so there's a lot of, so I'm still engaging with it on that level, but then I also remember this memory of being in 3rd grade and singing it with a girl, who I had a crush on, and so so there's that side of it too. And I think that's okay, for those to kind of intermix a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
I just don't think that's the role of music. You know what I mean? Like if that's all I listen to music for, I think it'd be really sad.
It would be, and I think the even sadder part is that some people only get that out of music, So they're
don't
not.
Do that to yourself. Folks.
Don't. Because you don't even have to be like as dorky as we are to engage with music on that level. Like I don't think,
No, I don't think so.
So. It's funny though because I don't think I've seen Dirty Dancing in over 20 years. Like my sister loved that movie growing up and used to watch it I think she watched it every day for at least a few weeks, and after that I was like, I can't even look at Jennifer Grey's face right now.
I've never seen it.
Really?
Even when I was a kid. Because we were pretty young when it came out, and just the name Dirty Dancing. Oh no.
Yeah. Really? I mean?
But I'm sure if I saw it now, it'd be the tamest thing on earth. But when I was 7 or 8 or whatever it was when it came out, it was shocking.
Well, and it's Jennifer Grey's a 15-year-old and Patrick Swayze's 30, and they're they date. Wait a second.
No, that's
I mean,
wrong.
There's still some troublesome shit about it, but it's it was the 50s, and it's we're going on vacation up in the Catskills to this, whatever, a resort, and I'm gonna learn how to dance and all that. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure it's fine. It's just like I said, when you're a kid, and it's what's your favorite thing on earth? He-Man. All right. Well, although He-Man had some
Transformers.
Transformers and Dirty Dancing. It just didn't really fit in.
So I'm with you, and that's probably why I was all right, this is it's not
for
my
adults.
This is not my bag.
Yeah.
But all right, man. What do you think? Ready to rock?
Back,
All right, buddy. All right. Sorry about that. So anyway, Skyline Chili, one of the chili chains in Cincinnati. The move was always to get a York peppermint patty after you ate your meal. Everybody gets them, dude, and they have a big box that you go up and you pay your ticket at the register, right?
Yeah.
And for as long as I've known, they've just had a box of York peppermint patties for 10 cents, and they are still 10 cents to this day. They have been 10 cents since 1986 when we moved to Cincinnati and started eating there.
It's they have meetings every couple of years where someone's we're losing money on the peppermint patties. And someone's no, if we raise the price by 5 cents, the whole operation is going down. It's the peppermint patties that keep us in business.
The peppermint patties are keeping our profit margins intact. Come on, guys. Killing me.
Look, it's just you gotta lose a minnow to catch a fish, all right?
Yeah, and it's this universal thing. It's when you meet somebody and become friends, or you date a new girl or partner, and you take them you go to Skyline for the first time, that's kind of I don't know. It's kind of a thing you do with every, all right, we got to go to Skyline. Now we're friends, Yeah. And essentially, every new person you go to Skyline with, they get, the York peppermint patty is purchased at the register and eaten, no questions asked. It's not even a phenomenon that we talk about as Cincinnatians. It just happens, which is something I really enjoy. But it's just, York peppermint patty, yep, this is the thing.
So when you have one, you're oh, cool, that's a take me back thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. And, when I go, I usually go back to Cincinnati about once a year, and I eat it. The first thing I do is the first meal I eat when I touch down in Cincinnati is I go to Skyline, and I get a peppermint patty every time after
It's interesting because it's, in a way, probably the same mix of, current and nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
We have a similar thing. When we go back to Lubbock, there's a Mexican food chain out there called Taco Villa, kind of in West Texas.
Okay.
And it's just it's just a burrito place. It's a fast food chain.
Kind of like a Rosa's, maybe?
Yeah, it's more like a Taco Bell, but slightly, it's slightly better. It's got a their burritos have a kind of peppery sauce.
Oh, sounds good.
And so, it's pretty good. But, I mean, it's there's no equivalent here. You can't go somewhere and get like that style burrito. So when we go, we'll eat it, and it's just similar to music in a way, because it's like it, is a reminder of when we were in college and we ate those burritos all the time. But we also like them, so we still consume them because it's not just a nostalgia trip. It's partly just an availability thing. And I guess, if I had any point that I wanted to make about nostalgia, it would just kind of be that nostalgia is fun. I think it's fun in doses. You know what I mean? But you can't survive on that alone.
And I agree with you, and I think I don't think this is not necessarily a slight or a disagreement with that, but I feel like nostalgia is a very surface level feeling. It's not deep. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if I agree, just simply because, yes, there is a surface level thing to it, and it can be something that's exploited. And I guess that is one other point that I wanted to make about how businesses exploit the heck out of you.
Oh my God!
And I guess whatever you think of Captain Marvel, I'm going to go see it. You know what I mean?
Sure,
but
I watched Stranger Things and thought it was fantastic.
But I think it's just I don't want to give the keys to my brain over to somebody who can pull it just by saying, throw red
Blockbuster Video.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like your life's got to be about more than where you have been.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's why all those BuzzFeed lists and stuff like that, getting out of the realm of music for a second, after a while just became so frustrating, because it's I do like the stuff that I liked when I was a kid or a teenager or whatever, but I don't want to spend the rest of my life thinking about that stuff.
Exactly.
My identity is not tied up in being a 90s kid, except for insofar as the 90s shaped the way I think about things. Right. But I don't want to go back. I don't think, and that's maybe more than anything else, the thing that you want to avoid is just being the sad old man who thinks, well, life was never as good as it was when I was a kid or when I was a teenager. I think that's very sad. I was talking to, because one of the interesting things we talk about nostalgia is it seems to be kind of universal. I was talking to Corey this morning.
Corey Dooley?
Yeah, so 2 episodes in a row that I'm talking about Corey. But I was talking to him about the 2000s, because I had mentioned, he was listening to the 2002 podcast.
Okay.
And
so he's listening to the podcast.
Yeah, good. He listened to that episode anyway. I told him there was some Nickelback in it. So
nothing great about Nickelback. But.
No, but he's a fan, so he's got to get it on.
Well, and look, man, if he finds something interesting about Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, then maybe that's something. Maybe he'll evolve.
But he was talking about feeling nostalgic for 2002. Yeah. Now, I was an adult in 2002, and so to me, the 2000s is a decade that is hard to be nostalgic for. Yeah. Partly because of my age, but I think also partly because what are the cultural signifiers of the time? 9/11, the Iraq War. Right. I mean, these aren't things you want to get nostalgic about. So I asked him, I was like, we're about to start talking about nostalgia. What do you think about nostalgia? Because he was younger than us, so he was in 4th grade.
Oh, really?
2002.
Whoa.
And he was like, yeah, I love it. He's like, I think of the 2000s as when I was a kid, and it's to him, it's the same way I would think of the 80s.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
In a way that I found that kind of comforting. Yeah. Because it's I think of that era as being sort of paranoid and
me too.
Terrible.
Yeah. And something kind of beautiful about that is he remembers that.
Yeah, that he looks at it and he just doesn't know that.
He was a kid. Yeah.
He remembers, the Nickelodeon cartoons he watched and the music that was on the radio. Yeah. And gosh darn it, he gets nostalgic when he hears the Spider-Man song that you and I just trash talked last time, right? And in a way, that makes it makes me feel better,
Exactly. Yeah.
Out there's somebody who hears Blurry by Puddle of Mud and goes, the good times.
Yeah, and it's kids now, they're not going to think of in another 20 years they'll think about
Lil Yachty.
Yeah, well, no. I wasn't trying to say that. They're going to think about Ariana Grande more than they're going to think about Trump. You know what I'm saying? Or anything like that. And same kind of thing.
And that's okay.
Exactly. I mean, they're still going to understand the points of history, but they're going to have a different context to them, and they're not being a child
being a kid in the 80s. I know about the Iran Contra affair.
Right.
I have thoughts.
Ollie
about
North and all. Yeah,
but
of course.
When I think think of the 80s as being a kid, that's not what I think about.
You think about Back to the Future or whatever,
right.
Me too. So, you don't think about the Cold War.
Exactly. Unless you're thinking about Top Gun or
right, or Rocky IV.
Oh, yeah, Rocky IV. Oh my God. So
it's a spot now.
No, you gotta find a spot.
This is crowded.
Well, we're just
back to work, right?
Yeah, just about done. So anything else you want to add before
I don't think so, man.
A bit of a splashy episode.
Yeah, I like it actually. I think the conversation was great, man. I'm a little under the weather, and I was kind of not apprehensive, but I
weren't sure
if I was going to be able to give it my all, and I feel like I contributed quite well.
Yeah, it was really good, man.
Yeah, I agree. Well, cool, man.
Well, one day in the future, we will think back on this episode and think, they get very nostalgic.
Remember when we recorded that Lunchtime episode? It will be as meta as the movie Inception, Chris.
I'm just thinking, can you imagine? One day, you and I might be many years from now, 80-year-old man listening to this episode of the podcast.
Remember when we were 40?
When we used to do that podcast. Back when the golden age of SoundCloud rap. That music takes me back.
Oh, God. That's going to take somebody back at some point, which is kind of scary to think about, but it is what it is, man. I kind of, I don't know, a coworker of ours earlier today was talking about the new 2 Chainz song.
Oh, yeah? 2
Yeah.
Chainz is funny.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, here's the thing. 2 Chainz, Future, those rappers, I feel like are definitely better cultural arbiters. Even though I don't really like the music, it's still hip-hop, and it's still something that's much more in tune with hip-hop culture than any of the fucking SoundCloud bullshit, but still not something I'm going to go out and listen to and like. And that's just, it is what it is. But but I don't know. But 2 Chainz was on Raekwon's last album, and he was on one song, and his verse was actually not bad. Like, he can actually rap, and he's, it's not bullshit. So, I don't know, man. That's just kind of my thing. So, so hopefully one day I will stop my bashing of SoundCloud rap just because it's just kind of whatever.
I gotta stop bringing it up.
No, it's okay. It's adding fuel to the fire, man. So what do you think about SoundCloud rap, Marty?
It does make me think of a funny, we can kind of end Margaret Cho joke where she talks about how,
Margaret Cho.
Yeah, she's like, when our generation gets old, it's going to be amazing seeing in nursing homes saying, "Oh, play that Hungry Like the Wolf again."
It's probably actually happening somewhere.
It's already happening.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, guys. It's true. All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We will catch you on the flip.
Take care.
Take care, guys.
Okay, so it wraps up. And do we have much that we want to kind of say at the end? The only thing that I really wanted to do is just make sure I hope I didn't sound like I was banging on forever about and these other people, they listen to music for nostalgia. Isn't that wrong? You know what I mean?
No, you didn't. I don't think. When you say I'm listening to these other people wrong, are you talking about just older people that, the guy, the country singer guy at your songwriting class and stuff? I don't know. I don't think that's wrong.
It doesn't really need that.
I don't. Well, no. I thought. Look, man. I mean, you had a point to make about what he thought being a songwriter was, and that framed very well within that plays very well within the context of our conversation. And we made it clear that you weren't dissing him, and I even said I think it's a sincere answer to that question. I don't think it was BS. I thought it was thought of, but I agree with you. I mean, it's
so it's not something you feel like we need to.
No.
Okay.
No, I mean that. I don't know. I think you're just illustrating the point of kind of I don't think that it should be something as kind of simple as your life as a movie, and you're using the metaphor of movies to enjoy music. You shouldn't need that to enjoy music.
Right.
And that's what you were trying to say.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, exactly, because that was what I was trying to say. But I felt like I didn't know if I kind of circled the drain too much on that. You know what I mean? That was
part of it, though, What do you mean by circle the drain?
I mean, just didn't get to the
The point.
You know what
okay.
I mean? Like,
no. I thought when you said you're just illustrating, how people feel within the context of using music as using a movie metaphor to enjoy it. That's where I think you hammered the point in. Yeah. Personally, that's how I felt when we were in the moment recording the episode.
Cool.
So yeah, I don't know.
So what do you think? Do you want to then just at the end say, we got nothing else to say, bye-bye, or what?
Well, I mean, we can, do you want to talk any at all, or?
At the end?
Yeah, if you want to say something about that at the end, you can.
Let's just try recording something, and if we decide we don't need it, I'll just cut it.
Okay, that's fine. That works.
All right.
Do you want me to kick it off, or you want to do it again? It's up to
you. I'll do it.
That's fine. Okay, cool.
And there you have it. That was nostalgia. Yeah. Our lunchtime episode on nostalgia, which was, like I said, a little bit, to me, I felt it was a little all over the place. I think it was more that I worried that I didn't kind of get to the point, and I don't ever, I know how I can be, and I don't want to end up sounding like I'm just hammering somebody's other point of view. I don't want the podcast to be me complaining about how some other person enjoys music. Right. And I think I tried to make sure that it didn't sound like that. Mm-hmm. And I think we got there, but I guess that was, if we're going to come back for anything, it would just be to say, hey, I hope you enjoyed it in the spirit in which we meant it, and it wasn't an attack on somebody for liking music in a different way than I like it.
Exactly. We weren't trying to come down on people like you have to listen to music this way, and it has to be experienced this way. It's just, something we thought, Chris thought in the moment, made a lot of sense within the context of our conversations. So.
Yeah. So hopefully that came across real well. If not, write us a nasty letter.
Yeah, tweet something at us. Something gross and
come
nasty.
To our house and hit us with a crowbar.
That's the thing. We don't have enough social media followers yet to get hardcore criticism and a bunch of alt-right and QAnon people being
just,
what the fuck, Snowflake?
Luke Christie.
You don't want to talk about Luke Christie.
It's just Luke Christie saying, good, they didn't complain about me one more time.
Right.
Yeah.
He's watching.
Yeah.
He's always, no matter
Christie always knows.
No matter how many followers we have, Luke Christie is watching.
You know what? I did want to throw out one thing about Luke Christie. So, I joined Twitter, but I didn't really do anything with it. So I have one follower. It's Luke Christie.
Luke Christie.
So I always get this thing in my email where it's updates from Luke Christie. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta unfollow Luke Christie and I start over.
You can't now, Chris.
I can't.
No, you can't. I mean, you can. But
yeah.
I mean, look, man, you signed up for this, man. It's you got to ride this Luke Christie wave until he kicks the bucket and his manager stops tweeting for him.
Yeah, I guess so. What I need to do is I need to follow some other folks. Hey, if you think I should follow you, I'm in the market for it right now. Someone please tell me.
Yeah, follow Chris on Twitter.
And then I'll follow you back, Luke Christie style, and then we'll be all fine.
And then he'll get notifications about other people's lives instead of
just Luke Christie's life.
As interpreted by his manager, which is real. It says tweets are by Lou's longtime manager.
Yeah, so and don't follow Luke Christie, guys. Do something else with your time.
Exactly.
Don't make the mistakes I've been. That's the other thing that we want to do. Learn from my lesson, or my life lessons. Anyway, I'm super excited about where we go next. We've got some cool things lined up. So so far we're doing pretty good in season 2, getting everything out on time. So
agreed.
So unless you got anything else to add, I think we'll just wrap her up.
I think we're good. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next time.